Hello and welcome back to Building on a Budget Models. I'm Thomas and this is the second part of the Ford GT40 1968 in 1/24th scale by Fujimi. Now firstly it tells you to remove this section here at the back, but it's not very clear. It's only when I looked later at the Revell instructions that I realised you're supposed to remove these two parts completely. Anyway, I then went on to the interior, which I started by doing in matte black. Then I added some silver features, such as these two sections on either side, which is, I think, the opening to the fuel tanks. You also need to add some silver around the gear stick. I used Revell acrylics for these jobs. Make sure to leave the middle of it black. Now the seats, which come in two parts here, were also done in matte black. Then they need to have these small silver ringlets, which are all over them. I think there's about 130 of each. In this version here you can see they're gold, but in the original I found out that they were silver. As they're supposed to be rings, I put a little bit of panel line accent into them. Then started by adding part of the front suspension, as that needs to go into place, and the radiator before you add the interior tub. Firewall goes behind that. I used some foam safe super glue here to attach the little rear window. This version of the GT40 didn't have any wing mirrors, so it was really important that they could see through the back. Then added the pedals, which were done in silver. Interestingly, there's four. A little section here goes over the front of that suspension. Now I used these little MSM Creation seatbelt buckles as well as some black ribbon. I find that if you cut the ribbon into a point at the end and then also leave the photo etch buckles on the fret whilst threading them, this job becomes a lot easier. I tried to be quite frugal with the seatbelt buckles, so only used the ones that I would definitely see. I judged the position to see if I was happy with it. And then when I was, I put a little bit of super glue onto the back and then fit it into place, folding it over to stick to another bit on the other side. I had these little adhesive Williams logos, which I think may have been the ones that they used at the time, and then added a few other bits of ribbon across the sort of lap section. But then I just used one other photo etch buckle here, and that covered where the other belts were. So kind of cheating. And that was simply glued into place afterwards. There's a fire extinguisher, which was done in bright red from Tamiya. I also found that I had a spare kind of decal lying around, which looked a little bit like a label, so I just put that on. Dash was done in matte black, and then I used the same Revell silver paint on the end of a sharpened cocktail stick to add some chrome details, such as these raised rings around the dials. It didn't matter too much if the silver paint went into the middle of these, as they'd all be covered with a decal anyway. Just had to be careful about not letting them leave the circle. I then used the decals. First putting down a little bit of micro sol to help them adhere as best as possible. Pretty happy with that. Tried to soak up some of the excess moisture. And when it came to the steering wheel, I used this Highlight Model Studio Photo Etch Center. This was the same as the set which I used in my recent Mitsubishi build. Found that this matched the look of the steering wheel quite well. So once I'd snipped these out, leaving the sort of edge where they would glue into place, I coloured it matte black. Then you put a little bit of super glue on the back and used this wax pencil to help position the arms. Pretty happy with how that looks. Then put this centre on. Unfortunately, this set doesn't come with a decal for the steering wheel for some reason. And put that onto the arm, and then it glues quite nicely into place. I think that looks a lot better than the original. The dash then glues quite nicely over the top of that footwell. Then the gear stick needs to go into place. I'd done the top of this in brown. Then afterwards added a little bit of clear orange, as that looks quite nicely like a sort of varnished wood. There's then these door cards here. They suggest to do them all in black, but I found that if you do the top in the blue exterior colour, then they look more like the real doors. You can also add a little bit more blue around the inside of these doors, but I found that it was fine just to leave them like this. I didn't glue them into place yet, just sort of to show you where they will go eventually. Then, since I had a bit more time on this video, thought I'd show you the wheels as well. These were quite nicely done in chrome. I then used some Humbrol orange gloss to do the spokes in the centre. I was quite happy with how the Humbrol went down here. I tried not to paint in the centre of these spokes to leave that space clear for glue, which I would add the kind of knockoff part in the middle later. Good thing about using acrylic for a job like this is that it quite easily scratches off where you don't need it to be. Now then, remember that the front tyres are narrower than the rears. You slide on quite easily. Then add a little bit of super glue to add that knockoff section. It's important to do this before the decals, as you don't want to lose them later on when you're pushing the wheels on. Now, I used these decals from the Ferrari 330p4 as they are gold, as they should be in this set. For some reason they're supplied wrong. I decided not to do the gold ring around the edge of the tyres, as I just didn't think I'd be able to get it neat enough. However, as I said in my unboxing video, the correct tyre decals do come with the Revell set. So you cut these out into the correct kind of arc shape and then peel off the protective paper. I chose to use a little bit of micro set with this, firstly putting a little bit down onto the tyre where I wanted it to go, then pushing that down into place and adding a little bit of more micro set onto the top. I then let them soak for a little while before very gently peeling them off. Look very carefully to start with to make sure that they have applied. They're a bit shiny, unfortunately, so I might add a little bit of matte later on. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you like what you've seen so far. The next part should be out later this week, I hope. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.